Alright guys, I did my Scorn of Demon Chimera all mission clear. I'm hesitant to call this a budget clear, but we're going to go back with some cheaper options for the most part. But in order to do this on hard mode, like at all, I've got to kind of bend the rules a little bit for full on absolute budget mode. But we're going to try to make this more accessible than my other clear. We're not going to get a 15 turn clear. I'll just get that right out of the way. We're going to do it definitely more than 15 turns. Hopefully not. This won't be too long. But this is what we're going to use. So we're not going to use Shoreline Fina and Daisy. We're actually not even going to use Charlotte. Well, for one thing, I don't have Charlotte's Neovision's Awakening. We're going to use Cecil. Now, to do that, I have to give Cecil good gear. There's no way around it. If you're going to tank this with a 7-star, they have to use good equipment. So Cecil is using STMRs. For the damage unit, we're going to use Neovision's Sol. He is a Neovision's base. His damage is on the lower end, but the good news is his rotation matches up perfectly with a friend Physalis. So even though his damage isn't super high, it's going to be nicely matching with Physalis. I am also giving Sol STMRs. All that's going to do is speed up the clear, so this is not like a 2.5 hour video. So you would gear your friend as best you can. Now you could swap out Sol for your own Physalis, and you could even get a 15 turn clear if you're doing it that way. The other rule bend I'm doing is I'm bringing Terra. Now I am going to use her for nothing else but support and removing the field. If we're using Cecil, we have to remove the field. I would love to bring Setzer, the 7-star unit. I don't have him. Setzer can also remove the field. If you're watching this video in the future, lots more units down the road can remove the field, like Draconian Fina's NVA. Ferris, the Neovisions later on. Infernal Fire Rain can remove the field. There's lots of ways to remove the field later, but to use a 7-star tank, you have to remove that field. It just got to be done. So we're going to use Terra. We're also going to use Terra to summon the Shiva field, which Setzer obviously can't do. Again, that's only going to speed up the video. It's going to make the video quicker by using Shiva. We're not using Nethicite, we're not using Shoreline Fina and Daisy, and we're using an older DPS. So here's a way we're going to be doing this. So Warrior of Light is passive provoke with the Skull Plate. I'm using this because this was just given last week, so hopefully everyone has this. 20% provoke, that gives him 100% passive provoke without using Moogle Charm. He's also using Death Immunity with Genji Shield. I gave him Toxic Rain, so when he's got a free turn, he can toss that in for a little bit of bonus damage. A little bit of Esperfill, full evasion, and he's got naturally high mana regen, so he's good on that front. And I gave him Silence Immunity by putting him on Ramuh, the Esper. It makes him immune to Silence, in case we need him to use his heal or his revive or something, just in case. He's going to be provoking the drains. Now we're using Rena. This is a limited unit that some of you may not have. I'm choosing her for a few reasons. For one thing, she can give magical mitigation, which we're going to need for Cecil. If you're using Shoreline Fina and Daisy, you can super skip Rena. She's also going to be good for mana regen. Physalis and Sol are both very thirsty on the mana. She's going to refill lots of mana. But also, she can use a Nethicite ability as a skill of hers, her Silence. So this is another source of Nethicite. Most turns, we're not going to use this. And in fact, you don't have to use this at all. We're going to use Terra with Carbuncle to do most of the magic prevention. But just in case, or just as a backup, we're going to use this because sometimes we're going to summon Shiva and boost damage with Terra. So when Terra does that, we're going to use Silence to stop the boss's healing. Other than that, we just gave her lots of LB fills so she can fill her LB more often. Here is Cecil. He is decked out in the best possible gear I could give him to make him tanky. We've got 220 water and 210 wind resist. We're going to be using his own 80% buffs to both of those elements. So that plus removing the field, we're immune to water. We're only taking 10% damage from wind. He is going to be hit really hard by the non-elemental attacks. It's going to hurt quite a bit. We're going to use cooldown staggering and specific turns of guarding to mitigate it. And I'm going to show you during the fight how we're going to handle that. So here's his gear. It's really powerful gear. If you've got Shoreline Fina and Daisy, you absolutely don't need gear anywhere this good. If you've got Neovision Charlotte, she is also a very good tank for this. You don't have to gear her nearly as well. I only have 3 copies of Charlotte, so I can't use her, and I'm not gonna UOC her just for this. Terra, like I mentioned, she's not doing damage. We're not shifting with her ever. She is literally here just for the field and for dual casting Reflect. This is the way that everyone can use to get rid of the healing, is by dual casting Reflect on a unit. We're going to bounce Reflect off a unit onto the boss, and then the boss is going to bounce his healing off himself onto us, and therefore the boss will not get healed. She's going to do that pretty much every turn. Every now and then she's going to summon Shiva. When she does, we'll use Rena to use Silence instead. You know, I might not even use Rena's Silence, because I can use Warrior Blight to Toxic Rain instead. We'll see. We'll see. Anyway, here's Sol. Base form, we're not using it. Shift form, we're going to be... I'm gearing him the best I can. He's going to be well geared, just to speed up the video. If your gear is not as good... Okay, just you know, we're not going to get the 15 turn clear anyway. This just speeds it up a little bit. So it's not really budget, but it just makes the video shorter. The strategy wouldn't change if your gear is not as good. So I geared him as best I possibly could to make it a quicker video. He is using 125 Beast and 225 Demon. And we're grabbing the strongest friend I could find available. Tyserius has a nice Thyseless setup. She's going to carry the fight, speed it up a little bit. He's not using Rods, so, but we're not using Realm anyway, so that doesn't really matter. If you're using Realm, you do want to grab one using Rods, but because we're not using Realm, you know, it doesn't matter what weapon she's using. So we've got 125 Beast and 275 Demon on Thyseless. Alright, let's get this a go and see how long it takes to do a not really budget run, more of an alternate clear. Alright. So here we go. So turn 1, we're just going to Blessing of Darkness on Sol. Turn 1 is going to be like primarily a setup turn, and that's really it. We're going to go ahead and Shiva with Terra to get rid of the field. We're going to go ahead and shift Thyseless right away to do her charge ups for now. We're going to Magnus, we're going to do all of this. Cecil on turn 1 is going to Into the Dark, and we're going to do Lunarian Might. That's a 2-turn magic mitigation, which is going to be useful for later. Warrior of Light will just cover. And Rena, first turn doesn't really have a whole lot going on. She'll just haste for LB fill, and we will, it honestly doesn't matter. We'll do whatever. Okay, so turn 1 is going to be physical. We're not going to take any physical damage, obviously, so it's fine. Or we're going to evade it all, I should say. Okay, Sol is now going to shift, and we're going to stay in this form for the rest of the fight. We're going to use his Magnus for a Demon Killer, and we're going to break the game. Let's try this again. We're going to use his Magnus for a Demon Killer, and then we're going to just Devastating Blizzard 3 times. And Thyseless will just use her LB skills a few times. Let's go ahead and do this before we do anything else. Give some damage here. Not terrible, honestly. Alright, now Warrior of Light is going to use Invincible Shield. This is for a 100% wind buff, as well as a big spirit buff and a barrier for Cecil, because this is going to be the most dangerous turn of the fight for Cecil. We're going to Dark Wall for the water. That also does wind for later, but Dark Wall. We're going to Into the Light for the mitigation, and we're going to cast Cover. We never cast Cover with him yet. So now we've got 75% General Mid on Cecil, we've got immunity to both the elements, and we've got 75% Magic Mid, 250 Spirit buff, and a big barrier on him. We didn't get the LB on Rena, so we're going to have to just use heal. So we're going to go ahead and just heal with Rena, and we're going to re-raise on... how long does this last? Oh, this is not good. We can't re-raise. Okay, so if Cecil dies here, we're in big trouble. Let's just cross our fingers that Cecil doesn't die here. Because if he does, this is gonna be a problem. He should survive though. He should survive. Terra, we're just gonna guard here. Like Terra's not contributing to damage here. Alright, so as long as he doesn't do a double non-elemental, we should be okay. This is going to be the most painful turn of the fight. We're good. He did water, not a problem. Cecil is good. He did double water. Okay, so he didn't do any non-elemental AoEs, which is fine. That's going to happen sometimes. Sometimes he's going to do 2, though. Alright, so, let's see. We would do this with her. I need to just do reload more often. Okay, so we can go ahead and just Toxic Rain for a little bit of bonus damage here. That's also going to lower the damage that Cecil takes a little bit. Because we're going to do some damage. Let's try to get Rina's LB here. We did, finally. Okay, so we should be good for the majority of the rest of the fight. We're going to go ahead and just summon Shiva to keep that gate, that whatever's going. Cecil is not going to take damage this turn, so we can just LB here. That's going to give himself 50% general mit for the turn coming up. Actually, we didn't even need that. That was a total waste. My mistake. And you'll see why in a second. Alright. So Cecil right now, let's go ahead with... Cecil's going to take damage this turn. Let's use Warrior of Light to obstructing defense on Cecil. That gives him 70% general mitigation. Let's guard Cecil for 50% guard mitigation. So now at this point he's only taking 15% damage. He's taking 70 and then half of that is 15%. Now we're going to use Rina to Mother's Protection for 50% magic mitigation. So now he's only taking 7% damage on Cecil. And then we'll just haste. So Cecil is now only taking 7% damage. He should survive here. He should. Let's go ahead and reload. It's turn 4. When are we refreshing our cooldowns? On turn 5. So we're going to just triple cast. When Faislis' LB is ready, use her LB skill. When it's not ready, you just use regular chaining. Terra can just guard. Until the boss gets below 50, we don't really need much from Terra. Okay, so we're gonna take two hits from the boss. Wind, we're taking basically no damage, and then some non-elemental. As you see, he's getting hit pretty hard, and then wind again. So we're getting really lucky that the boss is not using non-elemental. But at this point, Cecil should be fine. Even if he dies on the second non-elemental, at this point we've got re-raise from Rina pretty much always up. So he'll just re-raise even if he does die on the second AoE. So it'll be totally fine. Let's go ahead and Angel Feather with her. We're going to get drained with Warrior of Light in a minute, so let's go ahead and cover it with him. Let's go ahead and use an LB skill on... Actually, nope, we need to fill LB gauge. Cooldowns. So we're going to Magic Gunner, and then use some chaining, and Sol needs to... actually, we're going to do it... Let me double check one thing. Yeah, we're going to do something... We're going to do it a little bit different. Because I'm not sure if these chains properly doing it that way, we're going to use... the chains, and then we're going to use the cooldown at the end of the turn. That way, it absolutely will not break the chain. And then, his quad cast unlock. So we're good here. Okay, not terrible, I guess. Cecil will go ahead and into the dark, so we're going to get ready for covering later, and Terra is just waiting. So here's the drain turn. It's going to drain Warrior of Light to 0 mana. It shouldn't matter. We've got Rina's LB and all that. And that's pretty much the rotation. We're going to repeat that for the remainder of the fight. When the boss gets below half, we're going to start using Reflect with Terra. Let's see, Sol. Sol is going to use his Magnus for another charge of Demon Killer. We're going to shift Faislis, and her LB is probably not ready. It's not. That's okay. So it's turn 6. It's just a non-elemental turn. I'm sorry, it's a physical turn. We'll just use this to get some a barrier for Cecil for later. Cecil is going to use resist buff. We're going to cover, and we're going to Lunarian Might. All right. Let's go ahead and do our chaining here. Oh, I didn't summon Shiva. Whoopsie. Yeah, I should have had the Shiva field. It would have been more damage. You know, whatever. What is guard Rina? You know, all we're really doing with Rina is LB and then her magic cooldown every now and then. Okay. So now that we've got all of Cecil's buffs up, this next turn is going to be super easy and safe. So we're going to... let's see. We're going to... Let's have Cecil re-raise himself just in case. Let's into the light and just put up cover. We'll have Rina use her LB. Let's see. We've got LB on Physalis, so we can do that. Sol wants to just triple cast. Warrior of Light on this turn can put up Toxic Rain for a little bit of bonus damage. And we'll do this. Alright, Terra will go ahead and start using dual cast Reflect. We'll just Reflect on herself twice. And you'll see that this bounces off herself and puts Reflect on the boss. So once the boss starts healing below 50%, it'll start bouncing off himself. So here's a non-elemental turn. There you go. So it hit Cecil decently hard, and then a water attack. So even if he had done a double non-elemental, Cecil would have been fine here. So there you go. Let's see. It's turn 8. Is this when we do our cooldowns again? No, next turn. We'll just use Terra to refresh this. It's turn 8. This is going to be a physical damage turn. We'll just have Warrior of Light refresh his cover. We'll go ahead and do our chaining with our DPS. Cecil will go back into Dark Stance and refresh cover. We can just put up LB fill with Rina. And yeah, this is pretty much the whole fight. You know, once the boss gets below 50, we'll be slowing it down a little bit. I mean, we'll be using... I'm sorry, what am I talking about? We'll be using Reflect every single turn. It's turn 9. This is when we use our cooldowns again. So we're going to Triple Chain and then Mental Destruction. We're going to Triple Chain and then Magic Gunner type. Let's see. Let's go ahead and do our damage before we worry about anything else. Alright, Rina can do... I'm sorry, no. Rina cannot do her LB here. Cecil is going to guard here. So we're going to guard Cecil. Warrior of Light is going to Obstructing Defense on Cecil. And Rina is going to use her Mother's Protection, which is not available. I did not plan that. Okay, so we're going to have to use a weaker Magic Mitt, which is Reflection, which is only 35%. So if the boss does a double non-elemental turn, this is actually going to be really painful. So we got to just cross our fingers here. Cecil might survive still, but if he dies, he's got re-raise, so it's actually totally fine, even if he does die. And let's Reflect Terra twice, just pretend like the boss is below 50 at this point, so we would bounce off the healing off the boss. So let's see what happens. So the boss is doing water, so we're fine. He's not going to die here, even if the boss does do a non-elemental. You see he's taking more damage because we didn't have the cooldown. He did a double water, so we were totally fine. Yeah. If Cecil had died, he wouldn't have died until the second AoE, even if it was a double non-elemental AoE turn. And he had re-raise, it would have been totally fine. So we're good. So let's go ahead and refresh cover, because Warrior of Light is getting drained in a second. Sol is going to just do his chaining. We're going to go ahead and shift. Nope, we're not going to shift because it's not ready yet. We'll go ahead and refresh Shiva here. Cecil on turn 10 can just literally guard. He has nothing to do. Rina can do her LB. I guess Cecil can do his LB too, because it fills LB gauge a tiny amount. And let's do some damage. So what I might do is, once we finally see a double non-elemental turn and Cecil gets hit pretty hard, I'll go ahead and cut the video until close to the end so you can see, because I mean there's no point in recording every single phase. I mean it's going to be a slow clear. It's going to be something like a, by this estimate, 10 turns for 40%. It's going to be something like a 30 turn clear, you know, in the area of 30 turns. So let's see, we can shift Physalis at this point. So let's do magic. This Sol needs to use his last charge of demon damage. Let's go ahead and do our damage before we do anything else. Alright, the boss is not below half, so we don't need Reflect yet. So we'll go ahead and refresh the Shiva field while we've got a free moment. Warrior of Light can put up a barrier for Cecil for next turn. Cecil will do his resistance. We're going to do Lunarian Might. We always do Lunarian Might the turn before the first phase of the first round of the damage. And then Rena can go ahead and put up her LB. Fill some mana, do some stat buffs and all that. Yeah, Rena's LB is also a 200% stat buff, I should mention, which is helping out quite a bit. Because Sol's stat buff, his magic buff, is only in the base form that we're not using. So we're kind of relying on Rena's 200% magic buff for Sol, for the tiny amount of damage that Sol is contributing. Okay, so Cecil's going to get hit here. We can just go ahead and shift, and we'll just refresh cover. We've already got the mitigation up. Warrior of Light can put up Disease. A little bit of bonus damage. Go ahead and quad on Sol. And now for the rest of the fight, Sol will just be doing his quad. Turn 12, we are not doing cooldowns yet. I wish I could fill the LB on Physalis, but again, this team was built more just to win, not really for the highest possible damage. If I was going for a 15 turn clear, well, it just would not be a budget run if I was. But yeah, if you're going for a quicker clear, you definitely want to be able to fill Physalis' LB. Alright, so the boss is below 50. At this point, we need either Reflect on the boss or some kind of way... What am I doing? We need Reflect on the boss at all times or a way to absorb the healing. So we're going to start keeping Reflect up always. Rena on this turn can just put up Haste for some LB fill. And here's the healing. Oh, he's diseased, so he didn't heal. Well, if he wasn't diseased, he would have healed. Alright, so it is turn 12, Cecil's turn. We got a wind attack, and we got a non-elemental. There you go. It wasn't too bad. You know, if it had been double non-elemental, he had Lunarian's Might, so it was fine. Alright, it's turn 13. We want to refresh our cooldowns at this point, so we're going to go ahead and triple Devastating and then Mental Destruction, while the friend will double LB and Magic Gunner type. The Shiva field is still up. Because the boss had disease, he has Reflex. We don't need to cast Reflex. We're actually going to take this moment to do the Shiva field, just to squeeze that in, because the boss already has Reflect, so we're fine there. We don't need Nethicite or anything. Go ahead and do our damage. I should have diseased him with Warrior of Light for more damage. I didn't think of it. Oh, he's already diseased. Oh, we're good. We're good. So it's turn 13. Turn 13 is a physical damage turn. Let's go ahead and just refresh cover. I don't know how long his cover has. Oh, he's good. He's got he's still got cover. Let's do it anyway. Well, yeah. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and stick to the plan we've been doing. So we're gonna go ahead and go back into the dark, and we will Paladin's Protection on Cecil. Rena will LB here. And next rotation, or next turn, we're going to have Rena's 50% magic mitt, so Cecil's totally fine. He's still diseased. We're getting lucky on disease not wearing off. Never rely on disease, though, because it could have worn off and the boss could have healed, but we have Reflect on him, so the heal would not have mattered. Alright, turn 14, we're looking at a magic turn. So Cecil's going to guard here. We're going to give Cecil 70% general mitigation with Warrior of Light. We're going to use Rena to haste and Mother's Protection. We're going to use Terra to dual cast Reflect to make sure the boss doesn't heal. So we're going to just bounce Reflect off herself twice. And then we're just going to quad chain with our DPS units. Go ahead and do our chaining first. Things like Reflect and Nethicite, I like always doing them as the last action to make sure that I don't like forget something or make a mistake. So go ahead and double Reflect. We're going to bounce that off ourselves and onto the boss. Disease is lasting like 4 turns. That is exceptionally rare. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't influence anything. But it's just kind of amusing to see. That is so rare to see disease lasting this long. So there was a painful turn. If the boss had done double Sonic Bomb, Cecil would have definitely died. He would have died on the second cast though, and because we're using this like weaker turn on the second rotation, it gives him 2 turns to recover with all his buffs. So even if he had died that turn, it would not have mattered. It would have been totally fine. Let's go ahead and refresh Warrior of Light's cover because he's about to get mana drained. Let's do. Before I do this, let me just reload Sol because otherwise, yeah. So the boss has Reflect still. So I mean, we'll go ahead and take this free moment to refresh the Shiva field. So let's go ahead and do that. Cecil, let's put up the resist buff. So we're gonna need that for later. And we'll do some damage to the boss. I guess this is not taking all that long, so maybe I'll just record the entire fight without any editing. There we go. Disease is finally worn off, so the Reflect has been bounced off. Now keep in mind, Reflect only has 1 charge, which means we have to put Reflect back up on him, or use something like Nethicite or whatever. Don't ever rely on Disease to stop the healing, because it can potentially wear off early. So we're going to go ahead and use Terra to reflect herself twice to make sure that Disease stays gone. It's turn 16, which, no, we're good. We're good on cooldowns. Let's go ahead and just reload these. We can shift our Physalis. So let's do this. Turn 16 is a physical damage turn. Warrior of Light's out of mana. We'll go ahead and use an LB to give a barrier to Cecil. Let's go ahead and put up haste for the LB fill buff before we do our chaining. Shiva's already up, so let's go ahead and do our chaining. Alright. We'll go ahead and LB with Cecil to fill Rena's LB a little bit, as well as Physalis. And then Terra will dual cast Reflect to stop that healing. We're going to Reflect herself twice. And that's going to bounce that healing off the boss onto our team without using Nethicite. Oh, I was supposed to use Lunarian Mites last turn. I made a mistake. It's not going to be too big a deal. It's going to mess up my rotation a little bit. I forgot about Lunarian Mite last turn, which means I'm going to cast it on this turn. Lunarian Mite, Protection, and then Chain Stance. This is going to throw me off a little bit. Oof. Ooh, I wish I hadn't made that mistake. Oh well. Oh well. Let's go ahead and Toxic Rain with Warrior of Light. How many turns do you cover? Got 2 more turns? Yes, Toxic Rain with Cecil for the LB damage, or the damage boost. It's turn 17. It's a magic turn. We need to refresh our cooldowns. So we're going to Devastating 3 times and Mental, and then Physalis. We'll chain twice and do this. Shiva Field is still up. Is the boss reflecting? He is not reflecting. So let's go ahead and do this. You know, we're actually not going to need Rena's Silence. We're never going to use it. We're not going to need it. Okay, so because the boss is diseased, we're going to put up Reflect on this turn, and I'll refresh Shiva on next turn. So let's go ahead and Reflect twice. The boss is not going to heal, though, because he's diseased. Let's go ahead and do an LB with Rina. So that Reflect will still be there next turn, which gives Terra a free action to reapply Shiva. Yeah, no healing because of disease. Alright. We've got Lunarian Might, so we're fine here no matter what the boss does. Lunarian Might's a really good cooldown. Double wind, you know, totally fine. And we're missing because of the accuracy debuff, but, you know, whatever. Alright, so as you see, because he was diseased, he didn't lose Reflect, so we can go ahead and cast Shiva here to reapply that. We'll use Warrior of Light to put up, you know, let's go ahead and do a barrier with Warrior of Light instead, for even more survival on Cecil next turn. Cecil will go into the dark and refresh cover. It's turn 18, I think we're just doing regular chaining here. Before we chain, let's turn 18 is a physical turn, right? It is, yes. All right, let's go ahead and do a haste here for some LB fill. Maybe we can get. Yeah, we got Faisal's LB for next turn, so that's good. Okay. Physical turn, no damage. The disease wore off, as you see. That's why you never rely on disease. It's a random chance to wear off, and you don't want to rely on that, because if we didn't, the boss would have healed 30%, and we would have been back like at 55%, and that would have been just the worst. Alright, so, it's turn 19. It's a magic damage turn. We don't need to refresh cooldowns or anything. Let's see. We can't shift the Faisal's, but her LB is ready to go. Alright, so we're going to guard Cecil. We're going to single target Cecil's 70% damage reduction, and then Rina is going to... oh, Mother's Protection is not ready again. No! Cecil might die here. Let's go ahead and Reflection for a 35% magic buff. Now, if you're using something like Neovision's Aerith instead of Cecil, she can do a better magic mitigation at all times, which would have been nice. But it's fine. Alright, and we're going to double cast Reflect to prevent that healing without Nethicite. There's the heal bouncing off the team. Okay, so we're fine on Cecil. He did a wind attack, and double wind, we're fine. You know, Cecil might have died on the second AoE. He would have re-raised, but whatever. Alright, turn 20 is the drain turn, so we need to refresh Warrior of Light's cover, because he's going to be out of mana next turn. Alright, Warrior of Light, let's go ahead and refresh your cover. Cecil, what stance are you in? You're in Dark stance, which is good. Oh, this is going to be a big headache later. Oh, it's going to be a big headache later. You'll see why in a minute. Alright, let's go ahead and use an LB with her. The boss does not have Reflect, so we're going to need to handle that. It's turn 20. No, we're good. We're not doing any cooldowns or anything. And so, I really need to use that reload button more often. We have to do Reflect, yeah. Let's go ahead and do, well, yeah, let's do an LB with Cecil before we do anything. Oh, I should have done chaining first, so Faisal's could have gotten that LB fill. Oh, well. And then Terra will dual cast Reflect on herself to stop the healing. Okay, so we're going to lose Shiva Field in a moment, which sucks. Okay, now, technically, I could use Silence on Rena and absorb the next heal and then use the Shiva field, but I decided I'm not going to use Rena's Silence at all to make this, you know, that way you don't have to use Rena for the strategy. So we're just going to skip Shiva for a turn. It's going to be less damage. It's going to suck a little bit, but it'll be okay. Let's go ahead and do our... First of all, let's go ahead and LB with Warrior of Light. He's out of mana anyway. Let's have Rena just use Haste. Cecil is going to... So this is a... Oh, jeez. I just realized. Oh, my God. I made all kind of mistakes. Okay, so Cecil... Oh, I'm sorry. No. This is a physical turn. We're good. This is a physical turn. Ignore me. I'm dumb. We're gonna refresh Cecil's cover and resist buffs on this turn. We're gonna go ahead and chain our mages. We're not gonna use the Shiva field, which lowers damage a decent amount, but you know, okay. And we're gonna go ahead and reflect twice with Terra to stop the healing. And some physical attacks. Not a problem. Okay, so now Cecil's going to change stance, use his Lunarian Might, and then just, you know, whatever, cover. We're going to use Rena to re-raise just in case. It's turn 22, which is magic, and we're just using cooldowns. I'm going to not shift. I am going to shift Viseless. We don't have the Shiva field because I'm choosing to not use Silence on Rena, just to show that you don't have to. So this is lowering damage a little bit. We are losing some damage, but we already failed the mission anyway, so, you know, who cares? Warrior of Light will disease the boss. And I could use the Shiva field because disease is up, but I don't want to ever rely on disease to stop that healing, because if for some reason it ever faded, he would heal. So we're going to go for the extreme safety, and we're going to double cast Reflect here to make sure the boss does not heal. But he's got disease, so he's not going to heal, and Reflect will still be there next turn, and next turn we can use the Shiva field, because he'll still have the Reflect from this turn, because he's not healing this round. So it's fine. So Aero Blitz, we have yet to see a double non-elemental turn. I wish he would do it just so I can show that it's okay if it happens. But the boss is being nice today. I don't know. I guess he realized that we're using Sol, we're using 7 stars. You know, let me give you a break. But of course, you know, people watching this video, they're gonna go try this, and the boss is gonna do Sonic Bomb twice every single turn. And you're like, what happened? Yeah, that's the way that usually works. So it is turn 23. Warrior of Light should have cover still. He does, technically, but we're going to use cover anyway. Alright, so we can finally do the Shiva field to speed this up a little bit. Cecil is going to just go back into the Dark stance. We'll refresh cover as well. Just for the sake of it. Let's see. We need to... Nope. Just going to reload that. Viseless will do her chaining. And Rena will do her LB for the mana regen and all that goodness. Go into our chains. We're going to get a turn 24 clear. Not terrible, honestly, for a Sol clear. Yeah, it's really not that bad, honestly. It really isn't. Okay, 24 turns, you know. Decent. Alright, there's the Reflect. See, the disease wore off at the start of his turn. But the Reflect was there from the previous round. It lasts 4 turns, and it bounced off. So we're good. We are good. And we're done. We just finished him off. Goodbye, Chimera. We did 2 out of 3 missions. We summoned an Esper. We didn't use any items, and we got it in 24 turns with Sol. So ways to improve that would be, if you're using Phasey, You can drop Cecil, and you can drop Rena as well, and you could add something like Realm, and Realm would give Rod in Peril, and if you're using your own Fights list plus Rod in Peril, that would have been an easy 25 turns, or I'm sorry, an easy 15 turn clear. But there was the Chimera Extreme with Sol, a bunch of 7 stars. I wish I had Setzer. I could have used Setzer. Of course, if I had used Setzer, we wouldn't have had the Shiva field and would have taken like 10 extra turns. It would have been like a 35 turn clear. But we still would have gotten it, without Setzer. So Terra didn't do anything except remove the field and boost our damage a tiny amount. So okay, let me go ahead and upload this. Hope it's been helpful. I'll see you guys in a bit.